2020. We are here for a work session. As always, we'll start with the pledge. Frank, can you please take the lead?
Sure.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Frank. Before we go on to discussion items, I have one announcement to make. The COVID-19 pandemic has created numerous challenges for the town, but the health and safety of our residents has always been a top priority. The decision to cancel the Halloween coffin races and other traditional holiday events was a difficult one, but unfortunately for the bid who canceled these events. The Riverhead Recreation Department has created several family-friendly events, and you should look at the schedule. It is available online, and we thank Greg for this effort. Like the Halloween annual lamp post display and trunk or trick-or-treating in Stotsky Park. Okay, so there are some events going on, and I think he's gonna be adding some other events. These activities, along with many others, will allow residents to participate, but stay within the New York State guidelines for crowd limitations. Please visit the downtownriverhead.org and the riverheadrecreation.net website for additional information. Moving forward, on to our discussion items. First, we have Chief Heggermill here to present the September report on crime statistics. Chief?
Good morning.
Good morning, Chief.
Good morning.
Everyone has the copy, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Nothing, too much to report. Everything appears to be down, except for, criminal incidents, which is up. I looked at, Supervisor and I looked at the, areas that were up, and there's nothing really, that stands out. You know, larceny, stuff like that were up. I think it's all economy-based at this point. So, I think that's the issue. But I think for the year, we'll probably still come in the same, pretty close to the same amount of crime as last year. So, as I say,
Right, but as of today, the crime rate is up.
as of today, more
Significantly.
criminal incidents. Right.
We'll look at the big picture because there was a concern about the bail reform.
I'm sorry?
There were such concerns about the bail reform, but
Right.
the numbers
Right.
luckily
Yeah.
our numbers are not rising, so.
Right. I
But
have
they
looked-
are,
They are rising.
they are. You It were says it saying was in the big 175, picture, you were saying in the year
Yeah,
they'll
yeah,
come in the same.
Right, annually, right. It might be a point, at this point where it was slow, very slow in the beginning, and now it's.
Well, let's hope it
increasing.
doesn't. Well,
We're 2 months
continue.
away from the end of the year,
Right.
essentially, and Christmas and Thanksgiving and Black
Right.
Friday and all
Right.
of the Tanger
Right.
criminal events where there's theft and everything else is,
I don't think will be much different than we were last year as far as crime numbers,
okay.
annually.
But right now, we're up.
But right now, we're up, correct?
Okay, so I think when we say we're up, that's a blanket statement. It's
Right.
only in certain categories.
Correct.
And if I remember, I looked at this, a few days ago, it was only in 3 categories that it went up. And it goes up on the larceny crimes, which is very common when you have a depressed economy
Mhm.
and people tangle, like you mentioned.
And
So-
bail reform.
Okay, yes. So I don't, it's not across the board.
Right.
It's
No.
only, I think, 3 categories, and most of them have to do with property crimes. And that's a very common under these circumstances. However, we're gonna try to keep it as low as we can.
Yeah, but having the jail in our backyard, and there were 1,200 inmates in November of last year when the chief and I met with the sheriff's office, and now they're down to 400.
Or 500, but they're about.
Yeah.
And it's not because there's less crime.
Right.
That's the bottom line.
Well, kudos to our police department and the good job they're doing, and I hope when the year ends out, we
Right.
remain the same, even lower would be better.
Yes, they did a really nice job a few weeks ago. I don't know if you saw the press release with the robbery out in,
Yes.
Jamesport.
Yeah,
Nice work.
fantastic.
Nice work on their part.
Excellent work, yeah.
Really.
Yes.
Good job. Thank you, chief.
And what we're seeing is just an uptick on a few categories. Unfortunately, that's not so for certain, townships in central Long Island. They've had a huge, increase on many more, lines. So thank you, Chief, and
We have taken a look at the bail reform and as far as repeat offenders, you know, people being arrested, not held, and coming out and committing crimes again. So we could identify two. The problem is, I don't know that they've been arrested in Southampton when they were arrested here. So
Right.
it's a problem to actually study what's happening with bail reform and how it's
Mhm.
impacting them.
Yeah. So it's something we'll keep watching.
Yep.
Chief.
Thank you.
But
Thank you,
two
Chief.
have been arrested and then released and then come back and been
Correct.
released.
Two that we know
And
of,
that's
right.
just in Riverhead town.
Just in Riverhead, correct.
Yeah, well, the example of that violent robbery.
Right.
The perpetrators here in Riverhead were arrested earlier in Southampton on another charge and released, and here they come to do a crime here.
Right.
Yep.
And we had a stolen vehicle too. where they
And
were
not,
released.
yeah, nasty crimes, not, not stealing a lollipop out of the candy store.
No.
Chief, do you, keep any records of, deer incidents, motor vehicle incidents relating to deer? Because I hit one the other day and the deer are in rut now and it's a very
Oh.
dangerous situation.
I have looked at that stat in the past, and, we do keep track of it.
Mhm.
We almost average one a day.
Yeah, it's-
Over the whole year, so.
Yeah, you're right, Frank.
They're-
Every time I'm
it's
driving
getting
home, I'm
worse.
going.
Right.
25A.
You really
Forget
have
it.
to really have to watch, and
Yeah.
even then, it's, my daughter was going home and the deer ran out and hit the side of the car.
I always say
You know,
they
run in
hit
front of
you, you
her.
don't hit them.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, and they do a lot of damage.
They sure do.
They do.
And then who goes out and picks them up on the side of the
Highway.
road? Highway does?
Yep.
And from the upper mezzanine level, we didn't sing happy birthday to Frank last week for his
Oh,
birthday.
oh,
so-
happy belated birthday.
Just a couple more gray hairs.
Happy birthday to
Thank you,
you.
thank you, thank you.
Happy birthday, dear Frank.
Oh, you guys are too much.
To you. Look at that
By the
red
way,
face.
how old are you now?
I'm the second youngest on this board.
Not that we're keeping track or anything.
I'm the youngest.
That was a low blow.
Yeah, I was. We'll forgive you.
I could be the senior member here, huh? I could be the senior member here.
Maybe me, I don't know. I'll check with you later.
Okay. All right, thank you, Chief. Our
I'm
next,
staying, right?
yes,
Okay.
our next discussion about the formation of the new task force. We have named our task force, the Riverhead LEAP, LEAP, Law Enforcement Advisory Panel. Okay, again, LEAP is the, acronym that we're using. This resulted from, unfunded state mandate by the governor,
The best kind.
which, best kind, no funds to this.
Yep.
Unfortunately, we have, the chief executive of the town has to task the police chief or the commissioner to, involve the community concerning strategies, working towards reform. We're fortunate here in Riverhead that we have our own police department, unlike other towns in Suffolk where they have, the Suffolk County Police Department. Many of our officers live in the community, shop in the community, their kids go to school in the community, and they're engaged. What resolution number is that, Devin?
Well, on the list, it's 18. I think.
18? So if you pull it up, you have a copy of it?
I looked at it.
You looked at it, good.
And I have a couple questions.
Okay.
Well, first of all, it looks like a great list, and I'm pleased that you're moving forward with it. And I couldn't agree more. It's helpful in Riverhead that our police department lives within our community, and we know them, and they sit beside us at Stotsky Park watching our kids play ball games and such, so I do think that that's helpful in Riverhead. I'm just gonna make one suggestion. I think it would be good to include the pastor of the First Baptist Church, because he is on the county task force, I saw, so it would be good to have someone on the county task force that's also on the Riverhead one, just making that suggestion.
Okay, we can,
Aside from that's a huge congregation.
Mhm.
So that, I thought that would be great. We are a little behind because I think we're supposed to be in phase 2, correct? So I'm just wondering like how you guys will meet, like how often are you gonna double up, or?
Well, yes, we are in phase 2, the resolution is up now, we have met last week. We also have met, Jody, when did you meet with the diversity task force?
But that started a long time ago, that
That
started,
was
I think,
in June
yeah.
21st, I believe.
Yeah.
And there's been ongoing meetings concerning, Jody took the lead on it for civil service reform, and she has been meeting, we have been meeting with, groups, the chief has been meeting, so we have had efforts in the community. We have also spoken to every member that's on the panel, separately, and that was the first, phase. So, and we have finally completed, everybody agreed to go on, some people didn't want to, other people wanted to be behind the scene. And so we have, we do have the panel. The panel's gonna consist of core members and advisory members. Of course, myself, Chief Pegamilla, Councilman Frank Bayrard, who, is our former representative, but he also has a lot of minority, employees, so I think he'll bring a good, mix to the task force. We have Dwayne Beliza, Stop the Violence, he's excited about this, he's a community activist and, very engaged in the community, and we welcome him. We have the Reverend Mary Cooper from the House of Praise. We have Connie Losandro, who's the chairwoman of the Anti-Bias Task Force. We have Jeremy Hobson, who's a community member. Lane Booker, our public defender in jail, in juvenile court. We have Carlos Flores, the owner of Che Restaurant, who's, a new member, but very engaged in our community. We have Patricia, Theodoro, who's from the, district attorney's office. She has been designated the representative for the task force, by the district attorney. We have Gwen Mack, who's a community activist from the Church of the Harvest. We have Robert Ramos, who's a business owner, who's also part of the anti-bias task force. We have Sarah Mayer, from the NAACP, and we have Daniel McCormick, who is our deputy town attorney. Our advisory members consist of Jody Giglio, who's heading the Riverhead's Path to Diversity, and I know she's working with civil service, many, community, groups, and, she, will be advising the board on civil service diversity, and again, she started that process, initiated that process back in June. We have Sister Margaret, Rose Smith from the North Fork Spanish Apostolate, Andrew Mitchell, the president and CEO of the Peconic, Medical Center, who will be advising us on health concerns that we may have. We have Robin Berger Gaston, from the, LCSWR Division Director for Family Service League. We have Daniel A. O'Shea, Executive Director from Maureen's Haven, a homeless outreach. And we have Ronald Smith, who's a retired Suffolk County Department of Corrections officer. How many years did he serve there, Chief? Like 30 or 40 years?
Yeah,
A long time.
yeah.
So he's got,
He was
I
there
think
a
it's
long
over
time.
30.
yeah.
He
so-
also used to run the Little League.
Yes.
and,
Yeah.
He's on the Recreation Committee in Riverhead.
Oh, okay, good, I didn't know that, that's
Yep.
perfect. We have, Bacon Fideli, Director of Public Fire Safety for Suffolk County Community College. This is, an all-inclusive panel, and, we will have, the entire committee will have full input into, this task force as we move forward. We're gonna have surveys, we're gonna have online surveys, we're gonna reach out to the entire community, but I think that you would agree that this is an all-inclusive panel, and we wanna thank each member, because we know that you're doing this on your own time and for the betterment of our community. And again, thank you.
And it looks like a great group. I would mention that Sarah, well, Frank is liaison to anti-bias, and Sarah is also on the anti-bias task force. You actually have, counting you have 4 people on there, which I think is a good thing.
Right.
Now, will you guys be meeting once a month or twice a month, or?
So far, every 2 weeks, every
Yes.
other week.
Every 2
Good.
weeks, and a lot of phone calls. We might call somebody, on an issue, maybe we'll have a conference, something arises, and then we'll involve selected. But as the whole panel, it'll be every 2 weeks. Everybody will be, informed, the core will, and the advisory groups will provide us advice as we reach out to them, or they reach out to us.
And you will be bringing viewpoints and thoughts from the police force. Great, so I'm glad you were moving forward with this.
Great.
I mean, we've already identified areas that we think can change, or let's say we need body cameras or something like that. You know, that's an area that I'm a supporter of. However, funding is another issue.
Mhm.
Getting body cameras for our department is gonna cost $160,000.
Yeah, it's like 2,500 or 3,000 per officer, correct?
And that's not even taking into account, the fact that some departments give their officers stipends for wearing body cameras.
They give stipends for wearing
They
those?
give, actually, the county gives 2% for wearing a body camera, so,
Oh, that's interesting.
yeah.
Now, what
So
do
if
other
you add
towns
that
do?
into the other figure, then it's like, the cost is unbelievable.
Why do they give stipends? Because it wasn't negotiated in the contract?
I guess. Or it
So,
was negotiated, and I don't know how it works up there.
And a big expense of that, besides the camera, is the storage in the cloud.
Yeah, no, right.
That gets
correct.
really expensive.
Well, the price we got was 1,600, right? Right, that's 160,000, 160,000, right?
For 1 year.
For 1 year, right, and that includes everything, Tim, so that
Right.
includes
The
the camera, the storage, the cloud, whatever, it's all included.
Does that
in
include them
price.
extracting the video
Someone-
for
someone to-
discovery?
Right, someone to look at all that material? No, it doesn't.
so had you been looking at this prior, like you had been
Yeah,
looking at this?
yeah.
How many years back had you been thinking of
Body cameras
this?
have been on the radar for a very long time, so.
And what about Southampton and Southhold, Brookhaven, do you know if those
No,
departments?
the only one that really has body cameras, I think West Hampton Beach has them. He's got a 14-man department.
Yeah, that was a little cheaper.
And Suffolk County has them, but not the whole force. They have like a unit that has them or something like that, so. I think Freeport's the only other one on Long Island or in Suffolk County out this way that has them. So.
And so we are looking into it, and that'll be part of our report, we will be addressing the
Right.
cameras.
Right, and the other thing is the diversity issue is a big thing.
Yes.
I mean, I've been saying it for 20 years, probably even longer than that.
You mean in the workforce?
In our workforce and department, so if we're supposed to be representative of the community, we're not at that point.
But we're working on that, and the
We're working,
supervisor
right.
came up with a very good idea of a retention committee, which is something that we can
Mhm.
discuss, so that if they fall out halfway through the process of getting elected, because, you know, some people get 95 on the test, and,
They don't make
you
it.
know, it doesn't matter what color they are, but when it comes to, then they have to do the background check, again, doesn't matter what, you know, color or nationality you are, and background check, and the polygraph, and the agility, and everything else, they drop off along the way by not or putting something on their statement even that they did when they were, you know, a minor. And they're automatically excluded from the process.
It's very difficult.
Well, it isn't just, I mean, the town workforce is not diverse, town hall is not diverse, police department is not diverse. I think that, but our community is. I think that we really need to focus on more outreach
Right.
into the
We
community, even
have-
more than we're doing.
We have done that in the past, our
Mhm.
hands are tied though, I mean, we could only hire people we see on the list.
Exactly.
And when it comes to that, you don't see the list being diverse.
But what
It's
we
white
are-
males that are
And I
coming,
wonder
that are
if
coming
we,
for us.
you know, somehow we need to encourage more people to,
Definitely.
you know, get involved and take the tests
Definitely.
and, somehow
This is-
people need
this
to
is
know
not a
that
new-
we want to move forward with that.
No, it's not, no.
This is not
But
new.
it-
When I took the test back in 1984, I was already working part-time for the police department, but I was given a packet of study guides to take up to the First Baptist Church to distribute out in the community to try to get more people of color involved and more people to take the test. And, you know, they got free study guides. I had to buy my own personally, but that was my choice. So we have been working on this for a long time, and it's just a matter of trying to get people involved and let them realize the difference they can make, and really what a great job it is.
I
'Cause-
mean, the PBA,
Yeah.
paid for applications at one point.
Yes, that's right,
for
that's
people to
right.
take the
And
test.
the test is not drafted or written up by the town or the county.
Federal mandate.
Or the state, it's a
Right.
federal test.
Right.
So, you know, those were part of the discussions in our path to diversity for the civil service, was to look at the test questions, and then we also looked into who's doing the psychological tests with Retha Fernandez from the Diversity and Inclusion Department of Suffolk County, who stated that they were all very confident in the people that were giving the psychologicals to be non-biased. So it's
It's very hard to get through the whole background, applicant investigation portion, the agility, the medical, the psychological, the polygraph. It's very hard.
And that's what I've heard.
Right, so we get 1 out of 8 to 10 candidates make it through. 1 out of 8 to 10 candidates make it through.
As it should be.
Right.
Honestly, as it should be, because you don't want to lower standards to get somebody in there who doesn't belong. Obviously, we've seen there's enough of those
Right.
nationwide that unfortunately should not have been there.
Right, I mean, we've canvassed, this last time we've canvassed 80 people with a score of 95 or higher. That's how we have to start. I'm down to 21 people up on that list.
right, and 17,000 are what took the test, only 13,000 passed the
Right.
test, and 80 are in reach to actually get through an interview.
Right, and 95
and-
above.
And at 95 and above, and out of those 80, you said you're down to how many?
21.
21.
Last check, I think it's probably lower this week, so.
Well, somehow I think we will definitely outreach into the churches is great, but also, I would think outreach through the schools, through the guidance department would be good. They might identify good candidates, and somehow we need to let people know what a good job it is for them, as Tim stated, and see if we can get more people involved, because it really is key.
Right.
I'm glad you brought it up, because it is key to have more diversity in all of our workforce in our town.
And that's great, Catherine, and seeing as your liaison to the school district, maybe you can take that on and meet with the school board and see about promoting and recruiting the younger generation to get into the police department and get into the workforce in Riverhead.
And
The
actually, excuse
school
me,
is very.
I did take steps in that direction, actually. I did meet with some people at the school board. I also met with someone from Suffolk Community College and spoke with them. And then, we will be meeting with the school board, next week. So we are moving forward in that direction,
I
and,
think-
And I asked to meet with the superintendent, and,
Mhm.
and I also asked Catherine Kent to, join me, and that's something that we might wanna bring up at the meeting next week, Catherine?
yeah, I mean, I brought it up once, but I think it's a great thing, and, you know, maybe even outreach right into the guidance department at the high school would be a good place.
Yes, perfect.
Yeah, I actually think you need to start much earlier, like in Pulaski Street through CAP, in trying to promote and let people know when they're 10 and 11 years old, if they wanna become a police officer or be in law enforcement, that this is what they look for when they finally do take the test and pass, because there's a lot of things that kids do that are not the wisest things to do these days, especially with social media, because that's one of the drop-off points for the applicants, is when they go and they look back at their social media posts. So it's getting them at a young age, you know, not in high school, but at a younger age, to try and get them to, if that's the path, the career path that they choose, that they have to think about everything that they do going forward, from that time, 11, 12 years old.
It's a very hard thing to do.
Yeah, it is, and Jody, that might be something that when you advise us as to the diversity path, those 2 items we just spoke about should be included in that.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So Young Hit Professionals is a 501c3, and she said that, you know, as far as training and as far as mentoring and promoting the career path for the younger generation, that she would be able to take that on. So we were looking into possibly some grant funding for that, so that she could, start having those types of seminars or mentoring meetings per se.
Yeah, I think
Perfect.
mentoring's a good idea.
I think in the big picture, it's always key to get everybody to the table, because everyone brings different points of view. I mean, there are, you know, even when I spoke with a few of the Riverhead police officers, they told me that they went into this profession because they wanted to do good, and yet then, now they notice sometimes that people see them as the enemy. With young children, even mothers will pull their children away. So somehow we need to bring everyone together, everyone to the table, and, you know, work on this, and I think this is a good starting point.
Anyone else before we move on? Okay, again, it's an all-inclusive panel, and it'll, involve, full community input.
Right.
Thank you, Chief.
And I do hope you might consider taking the pastor from First Baptist, because I think it would be good to have someone who's going between the county and the town.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, the next discussion item, Peconic Hockey Club, Ray Coyne, our recreation director, is here to present. Ray, can you come forward?
I love it, I'll just start out with that.
Good morning.
We have Troy Albert on the phone. He's the president of the Peconic Hockey Foundation, and he's gonna just let you know what we've been talking about and just a brief presentation. We just have a picture of the ring.
This is
I think
This
there's.
is
Troy Albert.
So can you introduce the topic, because the public might not know what we have in front of us?
Yeah, basically what we're looking at is, we've been working with Peconic Hockey Foundation for a few years now, and we've been discussing hockey rinks. There's no hockey out here. The closest rink you have to go to is in Deer Park, and, not Deer Park, Hop, and that's
Yeah, that's the rinks,
The
right?
rinks in Hop.
Yeah, that's a pain for people.
So that's a long trip for people. Hockey is a growing sport here on Long Island. And this is something that they've been working at. The Peconic Hockey Foundation's been around for, Troy, you can probably let me know a little bit more on that, at least 3-4 years that we've met with them. And they do a lot of fundraising. They've done great. We've done programs with them. And now they propose to put a rink, where we agreed to do it in the open land at Calverton, at EPCAL, at Veterans Park. And this would be an ice hockey rink with a dome covering over it. So Troy, I think you want to take it from here?
Yes,
Sure.
good morning,
Can you
Troy.
guys hear me okay?
Yes,
We
good
can hear
morning.
you.
Okay, fabulous. Yes, thank you. That was a great introduction. So it is true, we started in 2015, and a number of years ago, we met with the officials from Riverhead. At that time, we were a new foundation, 501c3, and we were just getting started. And at that point, we had the idea of getting ice on the East End. The reason is that you guys all know there's not a lot of winter activities. It's not cold enough to freeze ice in your backyard. There's no skiing, and you don't get enough snow for sledding and whatnot for the kids. So we started doing hockey, and as you know, like you said, the closest rink is like 58, Hop. And I started coaching. Originally, I'm from Minnesota, so I wanted to give back. And what I realized was I could not believe the number of kids that were coming from East Hampton, Greenport, going an hour and a half just to get to the closest rink. You know, when there's 3 professional hockey teams within 2 hours of here, there's a lot of kids that follow it and that want to play, but they can't. So we started doing a few things. We started to recycle the game program with the Islanders, and we would go to the hockey rinks and get used equipment, and we would donate to all the kids that needed hockey. The next step was growing the game. So with the town of Riverhead, we actually ended up purchasing about 30 packs of floorball sticks, which is like street hockey in the gym, a safe way of playing for the kids. So we spent like $30,000 on that, and we would donate the sticks to the schools. And then, you know, working with the town of Riverhead, we've done free clinics, and it's been wonderful. And I can't say enough for all the people in Riverhead that have been helping us through this. Then the next thing we did was we realized that hockey is an expensive sport. So we started a scholarship program, and we raised money for that. And for the last few years, we've been giving $25,000 a year to kids in Long Island that lost parents, so, you know, illness decamps, you know, what it was, so to give back. So we started doing that. Then the next goal was, you know what, why aren't we looking at possibly having a rink on the East End? Because now we have all these new high school teams in Southampton and Bannerville, and now, you know, it took us 4 years, but we finally have our own charter for Peconic Hockey. We have the East End's first ever travel hockey program, where the kids, our home ice is actually, we're playing out in Buckskill, but it's a uncovered rink, so you have to wait, of course, you can play in June when the sun's not out, and hopefully there's no rain or snow happening at the time. So it's frustrating, but we're trying. So, talking to Ray over the years, you know, we toyed around with, I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of the park right now, across from the Riverhead building, Stotsky.
Saskia.
Doing something there, but, you know, no parking, it's also limited and whatnot. So I was telling Ray, I said, you know, it's ridiculous because here we have all these kids on the east end, they're driving an hour and a half. I said, plus, we're doing tournaments. We all drive up to Massachusetts, we all go to Marlboro, and we take the ferry. And I said, my goodness, if we ever put 2 rinks down in Riverhead, that you would have so many tournaments down here of people coming down and hotels, restaurants, and Tanger Mall and everything, that there would be such a draw. So that was part of the reason that we were saying, like, let's start somewhere. Let's try and get just a single sheet of ice out here so we can grow the game. And I was saying that, you know, in the beginning we didn't have any money, and we've been doing some big fundraisers, and the Islanders are a big help. And actually, I don't know if you're familiar with John Ledecky. He's part owner of the Islanders. Last week, John actually personally gave me $100,000 to put towards a rink. That's not Islander money. It was his personal money. And he said the Islanders will back you up when you're ready to assist and help out, to contribute, because this is something that should be on Long Island, and we want to be a big part of it. And he also said whatever he needs to do, if you know, the town wants him to come out and speak, and if this ever happens, and bring the Islanders out, he goes, and together we were saying, if this ever happened and we were able to find a place that was land, then we could actually raise enough money to build this rink, and we could donate hours, 10 hours a week, whatever it is, to the town, and the town can donate the ice to the community, and it's what we do now. Right now, there's a third of a size rink in Southampton, and every week we actually donate ice to handicapped kids, to the women, to men's hockey, to the kids hockey, to learn the game. And so we're trying. So at the end of the day, fast forward, we've now raised $800,000 that we're willing to give anyone that would like to start up a hockey rink. We're trying to find land. Looking at Memorial Park near Grumman would be an ideal spot out here. We're going to continue to raise more money because we believe that we've costed out the boards, we've costed out a simple A-frame structure to do just as a minimal as possible, but also enough to be a very nice place. We believe we can build it for $1.5 to $2 million. And I also have I work with, I'm very lucky to work with this, one of the better law firms in New York City, and they said they would go pro bono to do all of the legal work for the town and our foundation to help put this in. And I also have Three Brothers Construction Company that said if we bought all the materials, they would volunteer and they would build this rink at no cost in labor to help the town out. So, in the end, we've been pushing hard. We've got a lot of great things going on. And we're finally at a point now where we're close enough that with possibly a grant, maybe a New York grant, and I've been working with some of the judges on doing this. They think we could easily get $200,000 to help with whatever, you know, lights or, you know, whatever it takes. So what I'm asking the board or the town is, at the end of the day, we are looking for some space in a park to put a hockey rink and to work with the town to give something back to the community.
Now, how much space do you need, Troy?
Say again, sorry?
How much space do you need?
How many acres?
I believe that we need a total of 5 acres. And actually, the architect, unfortunately, won't have his final plans until next week. I'm sorry.
So just a couple of questions, and, Dawn, sorry to put you on the spot, but we had talked about, we're talking about a public-private partnership, correct? We had talked about it last year, and of course I think things like this are great, but I thought that we were looking at some kind of study that we were going to do to see what was the need in the area, because we had talked about, I think there's 30 acres at EPCAL, right, that could be used? Dawn? Oh, and people have been saying everyone needs to come to the mic. I've been hearing from residents.
That was a different entity that you were working with a couple
Right.
years ago, Catherine, wasn't it? Not Peconic Hockey, because we've been talking to Peconic
No,
Hockey
not
for like
Peconic
5 years.
Hockey.
Okay.
No, I heard that, but I just wanted to see what happened with all of this one, cause I thought we were going to do
Well,
a
I
study.
can add to that if you'd like.
I thought we were
So-
gonna do a study to see what would really be a draw, because something like that at
Yes.
EPCAL would be great, not only for the community to use, but also because we were saying, as he's saying, that it would bring people into the community to use our hotels and
Yeah,
such.
Absolutely, I'm a big fan of travel sports,
Yeah.
myself.
Right, you had
for
talked
youth.
about, you had originally told us how you go to these towns with, I think, your kids, and
Yeah.
how much it brings to a town, so I
Yeah,
just
well,
wanted-
and there's real data that talks about the, tens of millions of dollars that come to communities through travel sports, and what a great, opportunity it is for kids to do, something
Can
positive.
I add to that?
Sure.
So last year, it is correct, we spent $50,000 with Sports Facility Advisors. They work with the NHL, and they did a pro
That's who we
forma
were working with,
a
SFA, yeah.
5-year plan, from all the way from putting the Zamboni in to hiring all the staff to the dollars that could come in from the community. And then they did a complete demographic study of all of Suffolk County and sports, and they proved that hockey is the #1 growing sport in the entire nation right now, where baseball and other sports are starting to fall off, football, concussions, everything. And they showed that there is a great need, and I will send that to Ray, or whoever you suggest.
And
But,
I'll just
yes,
add to that.
we spent the money, and it could be very profitable for the town.
So
without
we
a
had a
doubt.
proposal from that same entity, SFA,
It's
to
75,000.
25,000 to do.
25 to do the
25
study.
to do basically feasibility for the property, and then that would be phase one. The next phase would be more money where they would engage with us to attract a private entity to do the development if it was feasible.
So now he came to us.
And there you go. And so this proves that we had a good idea. Because, and then feasibility-wise, in terms of getting grants, those types of data and studies and feasibility reports, certainly help us get the money, because it establishes that it's a positive economic impact by empirical evidence. So those are important things. So, this is right along the lines of what we've been talking about for a while, and certainly any grant assistance they need, our office is always here to assist.
So how would that be done? Because we can't do a, what do they call it, a parkland, Bob? It would be a long-term lease, like a 99-year lease?
It's EPCAL, so it's a qualified and eligible sponsor project, through urban renewal law, so, which is also really helpful and gives flexibility to you.
Right, but on the park property itself, if they wanted to build this, that would be within the park, correct?
That's correct,
Within
right.
the 90 acres?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, so it doesn't have to do with the property that we're in contract to sell?
No, no, no,
It has
no,
to do
no.
with the park, it's alienation of park that has to take 2 years in order to go through the state senate and legislature in order to get the alienation, if we were to try and sell the park. But if it's a long-term lease, like a 99-year lease, then we could probably do it through the qualified and eligible, correct?
Yeah, and in addition, you're not
selling the
abandoning, you're
property.
not abandoning the park, you're retaining the park, so you haven't alienated that use there, so
Yeah,
I think.
I'm not sure there's an alienation issue.
Yeah.
If
to
we
be
sell it
honest.
to them, if we carve it out and sell them part of the park?
Well, it's a recreational use, and it's park use. I would
That's-
think
that's
Even if it's
there might be an
private.
argument to be made.
That's
I
a
mean, without-
TBD.
Yeah.
That's a TBD for Bob, I
Exactly.
think, yeah.
For
Yeah.
sure.
But, for sure, I think it's doable, and it certainly would give you those things, that you're looking for there.
Would you entertain a
Well, you may want to
long-term lease?
retain, you may want to retain the ownership anyway. I mean,
Right.
that's, again, it's as Dawn's pointed out, something to be determined down the road.
Well, these were things that we were looking at, and what I liked about the feasibility study is, I think the facility, we were looking at a lot of different facilities through the rec advisory, and
Mhm.
you were bringing us stuff. They were multi-sports, as I remember, there were other things there, and I know there's some kind of facility in Southampton, correct?
Yeah, so SFA also worked on, I forget what they call it, what is it in Southampton, SYS, so they have multiple sports. So what we were hoping with, SFA in terms of doing feasibility would be to find out what sports
Right.
would be most, useful, but certainly multi-purpose fields, things for all different age people, and then I know we did talk about hockey and things like that. So I think it's got to be developed in a way that's going to attract the most investment possible for the town, and,
So,
Yeah.
and that's what I think, and if I could just finish, Jody. When we were talking with the rec advisory, I think we had talked, Ray, you were there, we were talking about using part of that community benefit money. I do not know why my phone is ringing, sorry about that. For the study, because as Dawn just brought up, we were looking at multi-sports things, and we were figuring out there was a need for in the community, and I think hockey is one of them, but lacrosse came up too, correct? I think
yeah.
You were talking about.
Well, and it's interesting, pandemic-wise, from a lacrosse point of view, you know, we traveled all over the Northeast and to the Middle Atlantic states doing travel lacrosse. And I think they learned this year that Long Island's such a competitive area for the sport that you know, you can do a lot here without going a long distance, but still, nevertheless, if you had a 3-day tournament and you're traveling from, you know, New Jersey or Westchester or Connecticut to Long Island, you're still going to stay in a hotel. You're still going to use the, you know, restaurants here. You're still going to spend money here. So those are the things that, you know.
So
I
just
think
quickly,
I think it would be a great anchor for the Veterans Memorial Park, and I think that we would attract the lacrosse companies and things of that nature that wanted to come. Part of the problems with what was discussed a couple of years ago was they wanted exclusive use, and then the time frame for Riverhead residents would be minimal based on the public-private partnership. But this sounds like a much better avenue and more of an anchor to attract other sports to come and want to invest in our property.
I think Tim was.
yes, so just quickly, I looked into this myself as a personal investor about 12 or 15 years ago with
Right.
my brother-in-law. My brother-in-law ran the Parkwood hockey rink and district in Great Neck for many, many years. One of the things that was born out of the feasibility study, 25,000, I think it was SFA that did it as well, was that the energy costs for the refrigeration and for the entire building are astronomical.
Yeah.
The one-time unit costs, even if you can get over them, the 1.5, and you have donations and grants, the continual cost of the electric and all of the energy that goes into these things are really, so, and hopefully, you know, that'll be borne out again, because that was many years ago, but
Yeah.
through a feasibility study.
Even,
Say, how
even
can we
staffing,
navigate that?
yeah, and I think the
Yep,
way we
staffing.
got to discussing it even was because, when we had acquired, EPCAL from the Navy, we carved out this park area, and we had a grant, I think, that Arias Designs did a build-out for us to do the park as a town, 60 acres, and I think we actually have 90 acres, 60 of it is dedicated.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, at that time, 20-plus years ago, the cost was 22 million just to build it out.
Right.
That didn't include staffing, and when you have that big of a maintenance or anything like that, and we know that, you know, that was not feasible for us as a municipality, so we said, well, how can we do this? Public-private partnership's
Right,
gotta be the play.
And we had all the hurdles too with the ball fields, because the park was part of the overall piece. So now that the town has taken on the subdivision and the cost of it, where this would be a separate parcel, the 90 acres for the parkland, it'll be much easier
Much
to
easier,
permit
yeah.
and to get sewers connected and
Yep.
everything else. So
Yep.
it's, those were some of the hurdles too, is that it was part of the overall piece, and trying to get the subdivision done so that we could just have the park parcel outset. And so I think it's great. I mean, the ball fields, we had a problem, we were talking about the ball fields and the lights and bringing somebody in and possibly letting them build a hotel on the property if they were to do these improvements such
Yeah.
as the lacrosse fields, the soccer fields, the, you know, indoor and outdoor, but
Just the
I
lighting
love it.
alone, yeah.
Sign me up.
Yeah, I think the lighting alone, I mean, we talked about this, we've talked, you know, the lighting cost alone for the ball fields is like $800,000.
Right.
It's just,
And
you
with
know, it's
solar
not
now,
feasible.
I mean, the solar and geothermal and a lot
Yeah.
of the alternative energies, you could probably, you know, energize this place with the more renewable energies that will not be as cost prohibitive.
Yep.
And that would all be in the, I guess, the written lease language. But would you have to own the property, or would you entertain a 99-year lease is my question, because with us carving out land, that 5 acres for you to own, I see that as taking a lot longer than just a 99-year lease.
So we are not in this at all for any profit. We just want to donate and give this to the kids.
Good.
Now, just to give you a little background here, I'm on the Long Island Hockey Association League, and right now I'm working with the governor, bringing hockey back. During these Zoom calls, the owners of the Long Island rinks got together and showed their loss from COVID. The rinks at Exit 58, since March until now, because of COVID only, lost $5 million in revenue. The reason they lost so much revenue is there is so much revenue for summer hockey camps. And you have to understand that in Southampton and everything out east, obviously there's a lot of people with a lot of money. They are begging for this.
Yep.
I already have 2 major investors that want to put a rink on the east side of Southampton, but I'm actually holding off and I keep pushing them away because demographically, hockey needs to start closer to Riverhead. Now, you have to understand, we've started 3 hockey teams out here in the last few years. We have a Riverhead high school hockey team now. So I think that that's one of those things that when you build it and you grow it, then we can move further out east. And I think it would be great for the town of Riverhead to be first and to get this program started, because there is so much out there that, you know, like I said, the restaurants, the hotels, I mean, this would hopefully someday grow into a second rink and would be very profitable for the town. At the end of the day, yes, of course, I have no issue with a 99-year lease, and I have no issue if the town says, Troy, keep raising money and then you guys take it over, or it's a shared, whatever it is. At the end of the day, whatever works best for the town and whatever that you guys want to do, we're in.
Okay, Tim, did you have something to add?
Oh, yeah, I'm back here. Thank you, ladies, for allowing me to speak.
You put it up,
Yeah.
and so I
I know,
wasn't
I
sure.
know. Yeah, I spoke with Troy and Ray a couple of weeks back, and we've also spoke in 2015. We talked about doing this. The one thing that is most important, Frank touched on, is the operational cost of the unit once you get it up. Can we raise $1.5 million to build it? Yeah, most probably. But the problem is the operational cost, and that's what we would have to work out, whether it's a private-public partnership and how that would exactly be. I am 100% for it. The number of kids here in Riverhead that travel west is incredible. And there's been an ask for this when I ran the Police Athletic League for 25 plus years. Every year, let's get a hockey league, let's get a hockey league. You know, we couldn't do it. It was too expensive. It's too much travel involved. So the need is here, and with the East End, Southampton, East Hampton, Southold, people piling into Riverhead to use it. We talked about with the residents of the town of Riverhead would be allowed ice time to use as part of the benefit of us leasing the land or you know, doing something like that. It's a home run, but it's just something we have to look at thoroughly and make sure we don't want to get in over our heads financially on the operational cost of the facility. That's something we have to work out.
And I agree with Tim, the location is perfect here, central to both Forks and to the west, Manorville and Holbrook and all those other west, to come out here is centrally located. It's just a great idea.
And the ferries,
Yep.
Yeah.
that come in from Connecticut and from other parts of, New England. Yeah.
So I think we're really blessed to have that property out there. It's really kind of an exciting thing to think about, that we could put a park out there that could, a sports park that could draw people in and that our community could use. And I know that there's a need for hockey when I'm out in the community. People have talked to me about how they're trucking their kids back and forth so far. For me, I still kind of like the idea of the feasibility study so that you can see where the need is. And with a feasibility study, you might see perhaps that you might move more towards a multi-sports thing so that you're really, you know, bringing in something that all the residents want to use. So, and we, you know, there had been a good start on that. Dawn, you had done some good work. Ray, you had talked about it. Anne-Marie was working on it, and the rec advisory. So, I do think there's a need for hockey, but I would be interested to see what other sports or sports fields are up and coming.
They all need space.
Like lacrosse, and also with COVID,
Yes.
You are going to have more people, I think, doing things, outside, so.
My
Yeah.
cousin and I actually did an 8-field soccer tournament, just on a trial basis on one of our sod fields. People are always knocking on our door to do something, but logistically for us, between harvesting and planting and the rotation of being in the business, we couldn't take the time out of our schedule and make it work. But there are sod farms in Jersey and in other areas
Yeah.
that have humongous tournaments on their farms.
And the public,
Yep, go ahead.
sorry,
No,
Frank.
Go ahead.
And the public-private partnership thing is such a great idea. There's a lot of them. There are some big ones upstate. You don't remember any of the names of some of those other sports parks, right? We looked at some others.
Oh, not off the top of my head, no, I know there's some big ones.
Well, there's Germantown, Maryland, has got a massive, facility, and I think it generates 13 million a year into the local community. You know, and that's it's a two-part thing, because not only does it generate, you know, economic, benefit to the community, it also provide, and particularly in Riverhead, I think, you know, travel sports can be cost prohibitive for a lot of kids, and I love to see them be able to really develop in a sport and compete here. I think it'd be amazing benefit to our residents.
Thank you, Dawn
Great,
and Ray.
Love it.
thank you.
Get that
Thank you,
signed.
Troy.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Riverhead youth engagement will most certainly be enhanced through this effort, and this is such a great community effort, and, hopefully we're gonna move this forward. Okay, moving on. We have, next on the agenda is Kathy Eisman. Matters surrounding, transit-oriented development. Thomas, Murphy, and Stark are here.
So I'll just give a brief introduction to this topic. We had a public work session on this in March to discuss the railroad station area and how we would potentially improve that. So just, you know, historically, in '97, we did the Railroad Avenue or Railroad Street Urban Renewal Plan, which was great, and attempted to revitalize that area, put in some new zoning opportunities, and allow the town to acquire property for purposes of revitalization. And then in 2003, the town adopted the comprehensive plan, and it looked at that area also and felt that it hadn't had any real significant investment there, and the blight maintained and continued. And so there were some changes to the zoning there. It's in the DC3 zoning use district. And then in 2016, Kathy and her firm, Nelson Pope and Voorhees, worked on the Brownfield Opportunity Area Study and identified the railroad station as a strategic location for redevelopment and revitalization. So, you know, we're here now, almost 2021, and we really still have not seen that investment that we wanted to see. So in 2018, we applied to New York State for a grant for a strategic planning grant for this area in particular, to see what we could do to revitalize it and really bring it forward as a transit-oriented development project and area. So we were awarded the grant, and the IDA and the town partnered on the match, and so Tracy and I, Kathy and Jeff Murphy have been working for the past 2 years on this project, which includes the development of a transit-oriented development plan and attendant zoning. So, you know, here we are, and we think we're pretty excited. You know, I think we've been working on this for a long time, and here we are, and I think I'm gonna hand it over to Kathy now to sort of go through her presentation, but we think it's gonna work actually this time, so I'll let Kathy pick it up from there.
Good morning.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning. I'm going to share my screen. I have a PowerPoint. It will look somewhat familiar to you because I edited it from the March presentation. And we've come a long way since March. In March, we presented some initial recommendations, but at this point, we actually have the TOD plan ready for the town board to consider adopting. So, and here's the cover of it. I hear that you all have a copy of this. This is something that, as Dawn says, built upon a lot of planning efforts from the past, and this effort has focused on what are the features of the area as well as what are the constraints to revitalization. This is the study area. The study area is coincident with the Railroad Avenue Urban Renewal District that was established in 1997. And there's so many elements to attract investment in this area. It's close to the downtown. It's got the supporting infrastructure of water and sewer. It's got access to the train station and major roadways. We have the downtown so close by, and we have an opportunity zone which provides really, it's an incredible incentive for developers. And yet, first, here's all the things that are nearby. The Peconic River, the aquarium, the courthouse, library, Polish Town, downtown, of course, the train station, and the Historic Society Museum. Okay, so opportunity zone, that's something that spurs investment in economically distressed communities. There's only 10 on Long Island, and it was a challenge for the governor to select the communities to put forward, but also for the feds to select these areas. Again, Railroad Avenue overlay, renewal area, established in 1997, comprehensive plan in 2003, the BOA from 2016, and the strategic parking plan all have recommendations that support a transit-oriented development and additional density near the train station. One of the things that we noticed when we looked at the code for the DC3 district, which is the office district, is that it's not consistent with the recommendations from the comprehensive plan, which actually recommended having live, work, and apartments and additional density in this DC3 district. But when they actually wrote the DC3, they did not incorporate those uses or that added density that would bring more investment to the area. So every property within this outline, which is the Urban Renewal District, is within the DC3 district. This is a 2001 aerial. That was right after the Urban Renewal District was created. This is 2004. Very little happened, but you can see actually if you go back, there's some houses that are in the area. This is where the parking lot is now. So the Urban Renewal District actually enabled the town to acquire the properties and to create the parking lot that's there now. But this shows what has changed since 2001. Very little. The expansion of the Suffolk County Courthouse, a parking lot on Griffin Avenue, and an industrial use on Sweezy Avenue. So our recommendations are for the town board to consider adoption of a new overlay district that would allow the increased density and to bring investment into the area for properties that are at least 20,000 square feet in size. We also are recommending that for properties where it's appropriate, that there be additional density allowed in exchange for community benefits that are recommended through the comp plan as well as through the BOA. But this actually would set the stage for a master developer of the train station lot, as also to attract an interesting opportunity for a museum in the area. The other recommendation is to consider amending the DC3 office district to be consistent with the comp plan recommendations. That can come later. So at this point, the process involves the town board's adoption of the TOD plan, which is really an addendum to the comprehensive plan because it isn't really anything that new. It is consistent with all of the recommendations that have been put forth previously. But just to make sure that this is consistent with the State Environmental Quality Review Act, the SECR has been done by the town, and it is supported by a traffic study that was completed by Nelson and Pope to make sure that the additional density that is possible under the TOD, the recommendation for the overlay district, would not have a traffic impact. So you have a copy of the SECRA as well as the plan. An EAF was put together. The traffic just so everyone knows, the counts were performed prior to the shutdown and evaluated a number of developments that are most likely under this, under the overlay district that's recommended. And it indicated that there would not be a significant impact or need for mitigation. So, the next steps are for the town board to consider the secret determination on the TOD plan and to adopt the plan. We're recommending that that happen at the next town board meeting. I have a draft watermark on our plan, and that if there are any, if there's any comments, I can make some amendments to it, for next Tuesday. But otherwise, I can just remove the draft mark and it can be adopted. And then the next steps would be to introduce the local law to adopt the overlay district. And then we have to do the Suffolk County Planning Commission review under 239M and hold a public hearing and do secret for the actual code amendment. And then you can adopt the code amendments. And that is all.
So I think you knew I was gonna ask about this. I called the town attorney, they were gonna let you know. This does not require a public hearing?
No, it's a small amendment to the comp plan, which was extensively heard. The recommendations of this plan are consistent with the comprehensive plan completely. In fact, I think Kathleen mentioned, and I don't know if it was, if basically the comp plan recommended a lot more density for that area, and for some reason the board didn't adopt it. So this kind of piggybacks on that, but it updates it with some new studies and the overlay district, and also in consideration of the idea of having public-private partnership to redevelop the railroad station into parking, additional parking for the town. So the zoning, yes, requires a public hearing 100%, and it will go to Suffolk County Planning, but the plan itself does not, no.
Can you talk a little, and by the way, I love the whole idea. I mean, we always talk about this as a perfect area. This would be really good for Riverhead. Just about the secret determination, wouldn't it be it's not a type 1 action?
The adoption of the plan, no, is an unlisted action. The adoption of the zoning is a type 1.
Because it's over 25 acres.
It's 25 acres and recommending changes to the uses within the district as well, so yes.
Okay.
And because the use is less intense of what was anticipated in the comprehensive plan, that's why it does not need to go through another secret review per se.
Right, but just to make sure that there were no adverse impacts that we would anticipate, Kathy recommended and we agreed to do the additional traffic study. And as Kathy also mentioned, this is limited to certain lots over a half acre in size. So we, it's not a giant change, it's just a real strategic change. And so that's really what we're after here, is to get some real strategic investment in the area. So we have some interest already from the museum, of the decorative arts. We have, we've had quite a few inquiries on the railroad station parcel, and I think that's our key there. And I think the next piece, once the zoning's adopted, is working on an RFP, which had been done in the past.
Yeah, I mean, before you were the Community Development Agency Director under Chris Kempner, there was an RFQ that I had wanted to put out, I think it was about 5 years ago, about the use and converting this property into a possible police station, justice court, with additional uses such as apartments and things that would be lucrative for an investor to come and actually build the building. But I really like this, and I like how it encapsulates the whole downtown as a overlay district rather than just that one piece.
Right.
The only thing is the requirement for the parking from the courts, for the agreement that was went into with the court system when they renovated the courts, obviously back in the late 90s, I guess it was, that we had to provide 600 parking spots for the court, and I know that 220 of those spots are located on this property.
Yes, and so that's important. And so, multiple studies have recommended the train station lot as a strategic development area for public parking. So, but we know that and it has to be maintained as public parking. It could be added to a structured parking surrounded with some other uses, retail, office, and residential above perhaps. Or a hotel, or multiple things. It would be dependent on what a developer would find, they would get a return on investment for, but the objective for us is because for us to build structured parking is incredibly expensive.
Yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily serve the purpose of revitalization just in terms of, putting in structured parking. So, in fact, in some places it causes more trouble than just surface parking. So, the objective would be to get someone else to build that parking for us by allowing them to use our land. And so through urban renewal, we're allowed to do that, and which is how we actually created the parking lot in the first place. In '97, the town use the urban renewal district to acquire the derelict buildings that were located on where the parking lot is now, demolish them and create parking. And so we're just taking the next step, and if we can get parking built for our residents for free to support our downtown, I think that's a home run. So that's really, you know, the next step. But also there's some real strategic lots in there. The MRI building's very blighted and horrible. It's been there that way for many, many years. There's a lot of vacant properties.
Right.
And so when we talked about this with Kathy and Jeff and Tracy, the objective was really to sort of like strategically focus on those lots that are larger size and see what we could do with that and make sure that we didn't overdo it, but at the same time bring that life back to the area.
Yeah, that MRI building would be a great building to get something into.
It's already, yeah, there's already, you know,
Well,
interest.
there's a few people looking at
Yeah,
it.
there's
I think,
some
yeah,
talk
I
about
think
it.
it may be in contract actually, but these are, and to give additional density to these developers that are gonna bring, you know, it's a risky area to invest in, so as a developer, you say to yourself, well, you know, why would I build in this area? Well, okay, so our objective as a town is to partner with the developer and say, well, we can offer you, in the case of the train station, the land, or in the MRI building, we can help you with density and other amenities and abatements and things like that to attract a developer, because it's, as you can see, for the past, since 1997, almost 30 years, it hasn't gone anywhere, so, you know, effectively. So we really have to do something to partner with the private sector to get that going.
Well, it's a great area for more density. I mean, we don't wanna put as much density on the riverfront, but
Exactly.
the train station area is a good area for more density. And, just wondering if you could elaborate a little, or how will it tie in with the master plan update that's coming?
I think, I haven't, you know, discussed that with AKRF?
Yeah.
I haven't discussed that with them, but we will. But this has been in play for the past 2 years, so it'll be, you know, there. And if it needs to be modified or revisited during that master plan, we'll see what develops. And I think, you know.
I had that on my list of questions also, that it needs to go to AKRF, because there's no sense in AKRF studying the same exact thing that Nelson and Pope is studying. It's overlapping, and we might be able to save some cost on the master plan if the secret process is going to take place through Nelson and Pope and their endeavors in the TOD from the grant, so.
I'm gonna let Jeff.
And we do, and as Jeff comes up, I just wanna say, we do need to always advocate to get more trains into, Riverhead. I think that will help the whole project.
Yeah, they just cut a bunch of trains to Southampton due to the COVID and the loss of revenue, so they just cut a bunch of trains out there, but
I saw that.
hopefully,
And buses.
once we get this type of development here, then we can advocate for more funds or more trains so that there are more users.
And that's going to be addressed in the comp plan update. Ray DeBias, McLean Associates, the MTA is looking at actually adding another train hub west of here in the Yaphank area, because the train station, in Yaphank doesn't work. It's a train station, it's a shell, it doesn't get used very often. There's no parking associated with it, so they're actually looking to create another rail transit hub just to the east of that. So just west of here, but that will help play into what we're doing today. In answer to your question, it's a great one. How is it? It will be incorporated into the comp plan, just like the pattern book will. So we don't have to reinvent those wheels, but they will be incorporated and included in part of the comp plan update.
Because it's a pretty large area that they bid the master plan on, and I would be looking for an amendment to that contract to reduce the cost, seeing as this TOD study was covered mostly by
Or
grants.
there can be some other things we can tack on to it.
Okay.
But
Well-
yes, definitely it's something that's going to be included as part of it and not reinvented.
Love to see more trains out here. It's a pain that we always have to go to Spionk or Ronkonkoma.
Yeah.
And I do think, Kathy, did we talk to AKRF? I know we worked with Barry Long on this too. He's been aware of it and, you know, had some.
I know that Jeff had sent some, of our, you know, our initial PowerPoint presentation over to
Yeah,
AKRF.
so they are aware,
They're
yeah.
familiar with it.
They're aware of it,
And,
yes.
and Dawn, can we get a copy of this presentation so we can put it on the website?
Yes,
Absolutely.
yes, I'll,
It's already on.
Oh, it's already on, they put it on, great.
well, there you go then.
The goal here is to, reverse decade, long trends of businesses and our youth leaving Long Island, and, this will make our community more competitive. From what I understand, there are approximately 12 counties throughout Suffolk County, pursuing this, initiative, and, it's actually gonna help, address one of our most depressed and blighted areas here in Riverhead. I
Yes.
think it's a great idea, and, hopefully we can all come together and help move this forward.
Yeah, and I thank you for taking the leadership role on this when you first took office and actually moving the TOD plan forward, so, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you,
Great.
Mary.
Exciting
Dawn,
things happening.
praise
here.
and Jeff.
Okay, the last one we have is the planning department project update on Crown Castle Tower Constellation
And
on
then-
Fresh Town Avenue. I understand they're coming back just to give us a study that was done. I think you requested it, Jody?
Yeah,
Last
and
time
then-
they were here?
And then we're going to amend it to include the Norton House too, right?
Yes.
So that would be the last one?
Yes.
Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning, everybody. We have in the waiting room, we have David Kenny, who is the attorney for the applicant, and we have Dave Jermakian, who is a representative from Dynamic Environmental Assessment, who did some of the soil sampling that was recommended on site. So this is a follow-up to a special permit application that the planning department has received. This special permit was presented to the town board at its July 16th, 2020 work session. Just to refresh your memory, this is a special permit, and we've received a site plan application proposing to construct a new 120-foot tall monopole wireless communications tower with associated ground level equipment. This application is unique in that they are also proposing to remove 2 existing towers in the vicinity of the proposed location. One is located on the east side of Fresh Pond. One is located on the west side of Fresh Pond Avenue. Those 2 towers to be removed, one is 120 feet tall, one is 122 feet tall. As you recall, this is a roughly 1 acre parcel of land which is located on the east side of Fresh Pond Avenue, approximately 3,900 feet north of the intersection of Fresh Pond Avenue and Middle Country Road. In the Planning Department's July 10th, 2020 staff report, it was noted that there were a number of material and soil piles located throughout the subject parcel. Being that we did not know the contents or the profile of the soil materials, we recommended that they do some soil sampling. As I stated, the company Dynamic Environmental Assessment did perform a Phase 1 and Phase 2 environmental site assessment report. Those reports are dated September 3rd, 2020. Soil sampling was conducted on the project site on August 26th of 2020. I was present during the time that those soil samples were collected. Just to recap, and then I'll let Mr. Jermakian speak to the details of the report. The Phase 1 environmental site assessment summarized that there were no known or suspect recognized environmental conditions, controlled recognized environmental conditions, historical recognized environmental conditions, or de minimis conditions as defined by the ASTM standard. They were identified as a result of the assessment, and further states that the assessment revealed no evidence of any recognized environmental conditions in connection with the property. The report recommended no further investigation at the time, and the Phase 2 report stated that the assessment had provided sufficient information to render an opinion that the soil on site does not appear to be contaminated by organic compounds or heavy metals at any concentrations that exceed established acceptable regulatory limits. In terms of SECRA, the town board, by resolution 2020-365, dated July 21st, 2020, initiated a coordinated SECRA review with involved agencies. Coordination letter did go out on July 20th. As of the publication date of this report, and to date right now, we have received responses from the Suffolk County Planning Commission, as well as PSEG. Neither of those agencies objected to the town board acting as lead agency for the purposes of SECRA review. Based on the results of the Phase 1 and Phase 2 environmental site assessment submitted by the applicant, staff did recommend lead agency and a issuance of a negative declaration, as the proposed consolidation project will effectively reduce the visual impacts from the 2 existing towers. We'll consolidate it into one. The tower was designed with a break point to protect neighboring properties in the event of a failure or collapse of the tower, and the project has demonstrated compliance with the required Federal Communications Commissions for radio frequency exposure around the project site. Now, the applicant does have a Zoning Board of Appeals application pending for property setbacks. They did require relief Setbacks for wireless towers are dictated by the height of the tower as opposed to a fixed setback. They did require relief for setback variances for the east and the southern portion property lines. The property to the east of the project site is vacant and it's wooded. The property to the south is currently a commercial use. It does comply with the setbacks to the north and the west. Now that parcel directly to the north of the subject site does contain a single-family residence, but the setbacks do comply with that residential parcel. Right now, the application is tentatively scheduled for the October 22nd Zoning Board of Appeals hearing. The applicant did, upon recommendation from the planning department, they did submit a geotechnical investigation report which analyzed the suitability of subsurface soil conditions in relation to the proposed foundation and anchoring system. There were a number of engineering recommendations that just deal specifically with the foundation and the suitability for that. Staff would recommend that when we get to that point, any of those recommendations from the geotechnical report be incorporated as conditions of approval. At this point, I mean, I would open if the board has any questions regarding the soil sampling, we do have the environmental professional in the waiting room, so he can answer any detailed, specific questions.
That's the only new part of this application, is the soil sampling?
Yes,
Correct.
that's why we're here,
Okay.
just for the soil.
Correct, yeah,
sample.
that was really the only concern. You know, as I stated, this is unique in that most of the times we're just getting applications for a new cell tower. A lot of times they're not in the most appropriate locations, but this is unique in that they're gonna be removing two, consolidating it into one location. And really, the only development out there is that single-family residence directly to the north.
Okay.
And which person did the soil sampling?
The company is called Dynamic Environment.
No, who's with us today?
David Jermakian, he is the,
Yeah, and I just wanted to see if you had anything else to add to what Greg brought up for us.
No, I don't think so. Greg did a good job of summarizing. Just as a way of background, the Phase 1 environmental site assessment was intended to identify any potential issues on the property through a site inspection as well as a historic review of available data. We did not identify any potential concerns. Based on Greg's recommendation, we did conduct soil sampling on the property. We found no contaminants in the suite of heavy metals, pesticides, or semi-volatile organic compounds, which exceeded the Part 375 NYSEG regulations for residential use. The soil is essentially considered clean soil, and there were no other issues identified on the property. But if you have any questions, I'll be happy to address them.
Yeah, great.
See, they're both there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving forward, last item, Jody on the Norton House.
Yes, so,
If I could interject again, my name is David Kenny. I'm the attorney for the applicant. We are before the Zoning Board of Appeals at a public hearing on October 22nd. Is there the potential to have the secret acted on at the next town board meeting on October 20th? Thereby, the zoning board would then have the ability to act on the variance applications with having the secret been acted on.
I think I put it up for the 20th.
it's ready to go up pending that your and the town boards thumbs up.
Okay, that was the discussion yesterday that we had.
Sure was, yes.
I guess we'll put it
I'm
up.
fine with it going
You're
up.
fine?
Yeah.
We'll go forward, look at that.
I mean, I wanna look at it further, but probably fine, but this is the first I'm hearing, so I just wanna.
all right, I did distribute the language of that secret resolution via email. If you need it again, I can provide that for you.
That'd be great, thank you,
We'll
Greg.
do that. All right,
Okay,
thank you.
we'll go forward.
I appreciate it.
Initially, we were gonna put it on the next town board meeting after the 20th, but we'll put that up.
All right,
No
thank you.
problem. Okay.
Thank you for your
and Julie,
time.
On the Norton House?
Yes, so I have been working back and forth with Verizon, PSE&G, and also Bob Castaldi, who's willing to take the Norton House, and also the House Mover. We've had several meetings out there, and they've had several meetings since, between yesterday and the day before. So it's, the costs are coming to about $120,000 to move the house, as of right now. The house move is $30,000, Verizon is $18,300, PSE&G is $19,600, Hink Electric is $19,000 for the 2 traffic lights at the intersection of Roanoke and Second, and Crown Castle is dealing with 2 fiber optic lines where they are estimating $32,800 for lifting those or laying them down so that the house can get through. And that doesn't include the tree removal, it doesn't include the light posts being removed and replaced for on the southeast side of Roanoke Avenue, or any of the sign removal, which our buildings and grounds could do. But I'm not giving up yet. I did have a meeting with the town attorney this morning to see if it was okay for me to reach out to these utilities and ask them to consider this a town project that we would need their help. So I would ask them to just have us pay what the labor rate is for all the people that would be involved in doing this instead of what they would charge a developer or a contractor. They're not considering a public works project, so I'm trying to make those arguments with them that it really is a public works project and trying to save this historic house, and seeing as the house is going to be moved onto what is currently known as town land. So
Okay,
that's
go
the
ahead.
update.
Thank
So,
you.
not giving up yet, but they haven't closed on the property yet. In speaking to the attorney and speaking with the developer, so we have a little more time, but the, Crown Castle for the fiber optic move, they're saying that they have to give 3 weeks' notice to neighboring properties to let them know that there would be power outage. We'd also have to coordinate with the chief of police and Frez for Main Street and Roanoke Avenue being shut down during the house move, so it's a lot more coordination and trying to get the utilities. The utilities are all on board to help, but it's the contractor that works for PSE&G that would have to move the fiber optic lines that is the most expensive and needs the most lead time.
So Jody, and I know you've talked about this, but just so you could review, just because we've talked about it so many times in the last few weeks. Of course, the best scenario always would have been to put it somewhere closer. I mean, that's where a lot of the expenses come in, because we have to move it and take out trees and lines and stuff. It really, it's unfortunate that we couldn't have figured out a way to get it on East End Arts or even East Lawn and maybe use it as some sort of tourist center or something for the town. What was the issue with moving it to East End Arts? Can you review that again?
We don't own East Lawn, first of all. It's owned by, Petroselli Development Corp., so it can't go there. And it didn't fit across the street at Mangano's property. We looked at, Castaldi's property, which is where the green shack is on the riverfront. We also looked at where we had we were talking about putting the boathouse on the riverfront. We looked at East End Arts. East End Arts actually, with the, town square, they're looking to actually take the carriage house and move it so that it's more of an open vista. And if we were to move it there, it would block the view of the river, which was the whole intent of the town square.
Right.
So by putting too much on that property, you're actually closing the view when the intent was to open it. And I mean, we can have Anne Marie, I think she was gonna come down and talk to us about that, cause Anne Marie and I did look at several locations, and I thought that the East End Arts property would be a good location. I even brought Tim out there and looked at it, but it just, it's a 30 by 30 building. It would be essentially blocking the view of the river, where the whole idea of the town square was to open up that area.
Where would you look at putting it, at the southern end of the East End Arts property? Is that
Yep,
where you
we
were
looked
looking?
we looked at the southeast corner of the East End Arts property, and the carriage house is on the, north, or the, northwest side.
Right.
So, they're talking about actually moving the carriage house up closer to Main Street in order to open up that area. So, by putting it on the southeast corner of the arts property, which is where I thought would be a good location, but, Anne
I
Marie-
thought I
Anne Marie
mean,
had problems with
if
that.
she could come down, that'd be good. I thought the carriage house was might possibly have to move because of the town square, and my understanding was it wasn't moving very far, I thought.
Hey, can Anne Marie come
But
down
Anne Marie
and talk
can
about the
confirm
Norton
that.
House? Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I understand what you're saying, but it just would have been, I mean, the
Her ears were
building
ringing.
seems like it would have fit in nicely, even looks-wise, with the other East End Arts building. And I know we went over this, but if you could just review it again,
Yeah,
just
cause
because.
Anne Marie and I drove around town
Right.
for a couple hours
I
one
know
day
that.
looking for other locations, and that's the first location that I thought that we should have moved it to, was the southeast corner of the East End Arts Building, and Anne Marie told me that that wouldn't be a good idea because of the town square.
Right,
Just
and if
because
the town.
this other location just seems like it's getting so complicated.
It is, it's complicated and it's very costly because
Right.
the other issues are the town obviously would be donating property, which
Right.
has a value, and then the cost of doing actually amending the previous land division, we have to have money for survey costs. But just getting back to, the East End Arts property, the councilwoman is correct. We have scouted out and considered numerous sites, even including the library. But as to East End Arts, if the town board will recall, when we negotiated the new license agreement with East End Arts, we specifically reserved our rights to relocate the carriage house to the opposite side of the property in furtherance of the town square project. Because essentially, I don't have a diagram, so I'm gonna use my hands. We would have the open space running from Main Street, and it would come down around, creating a green space connecting right into the green space of East End Arts. So by putting another structure there, number one, you couldn't relocate the carriage house, but really, you're taking away from the green space that we wanted to add to. You know,
And the town engineer frowned on it too, with what we're talking about with flooding downtown, and that this house would have to be put on piers and raised up in order to not flood in the future is, another thing that was
Yeah.
taken into consideration.
and that was an extremely costly endeavor to actually,
That the town would have to take, cause we own the property, so we would have to build the foundation, we would have to spend the $200,000-300,000 to improve it, the Norton House, and also pay for the foundation.
yeah, engineering actually opined that the foundation alone, that the 300,000 would just be for the creation of the one wall, shoring up the interior, doing the plumbing and electric, and didn't include the foundation because the foundation was actually going to be an engineering feat in order to address the flooding down there. So it really wasn't a viable site.
It wasn't, and it wasn't something that you considered maybe
Correct.
moving it somewhere temporarily until we could get a location, just because I know that there's a timeline here.
Well, the problem for the town is, you know, number one, it is a tremendous liability and undertaking to do that.
Yes.
To go through that amount of expense and then have a building sitting somewhere on blocks, essentially unsecured and unfinished, because remember, you're not getting 4 walls, you're getting 3.
Right.
I mean, so the money that you would spend in moving it, securing it, because you would have to build that 4th wall, you would actually have to protect it, because it's almost like a trap situation when you have something sitting on blocks. It's just, from a legal point of view, I would never recommend the town board do that, because number one, it's taxpayer dollars, and every time the town exposes itself to liability, that is a direct cause and result and financial impact to the town and the community. Anne Marie, I understand if you're gonna, move this house, once it lands in its new location, if it does happen, and I know Jody's working hard on it, don't we need state approval on the interior? Well,
No, 'cause it's a historic house, so you wouldn't need any variances. I've done variances before the
Okay.
state code, and you wouldn't need it.
Well,
It's a
it
historic
wasn't
house.
determined historic by SHPO though, right?
no, so certain issues, I had alerted the town board
Wasn't considered
from
historically
the,
significant, but it is a historic structure.
right, regarding Mr. Castaldi's subsequent demands. And the councilwoman and I did have further conversations with him. And he acknowledges that we will not accept those demands, and that the original, quote, proposed plan is the plan that would take place. and we could make no assurance regarding whether or not the state granted a waiver for the second floor being only 7 feet in height, nor could the town make any representation regarding taxes, nor would we agree to enlarge the envelope in order to preserve the existing ingress and egress that exists along Third Street that was recommended by planning. He wanted to expand that envelope, which would actually take away that ingress and egress on, there's 2 on Third Street, but by donating that parcel to him, you're bifurcating the lot. So for the one ingress on Second Street, you needed the second ingress and egress on Third for safety reasons.
Even though it was built for a Model A.
You know, so there are a lot of, quote, so.
He backed away from all of those.
Right,
He backed
he
away
did.
from all of them and said, I'll just take it with the conditions that you're giving me and we'll call it a day, so.
Well, and it's not, I mean, it's not determined historic by SHPO, but it is considered historic in our community. And I think we can all agree that the community really did wanna see us be able to save this, but it certainly has gotten to be very complicated.
Well, and costly, so.
And costly.
The
So if
town
you
board.
can find another location, or if anybody on the town board can find another location where they think that it would be suitable, that it would be closer, that it would be, anybody wants to donate money, any of those 600 people that commented that we should save it, then, you know, we'll take it.
Yeah,
Sure.
so I'm just going to, I know the councilwoman is working on seeing if they'll reduce the costs of the lines. I don't know if we secured a cost with respect to the traffic signals.
Yep. That we
Yeah,
did,
she's
that was
working on
Hank
it.
Electric, that was 19,000, so I'm talking to the
Okay.
union that Hank is affiliated with, trying to get that number down and just trying to pay day rates for the labor, but, it's, there's a lot of work involved, and people are gonna be without power along Main Street and along Roanoke Avenue while they're taking down the fiber optic and the 3-way lines in order to get the house there, so there's a lot involved.
Right, so at this point, from the town attorney's point of view, or rather from my point of view, I've done, you know, preliminary legwork. If the town board, and at the time the town board advises me that they either are going to proceed. If you don't proceed, obviously, we don't proceed. But if you do, then thereafter, you know, I would have to start the contract processes, but all the resolutions, the preliminary resolutions are done. I have shared drafts with all of you, but I think at this point, I mean, I don't want to speak for the councilwoman, I think we're just trying to get a better handle on what the actual out-of-pocket expenses are to the town.
I think the one thing that I think the town can make a decision on is if they're telling me, if Crown Castle is saying that they are mandated to give 3 weeks' notice to the people that would be out of power, to get those addresses of the people that would be out of the power, and then for the town to do a survey and get signatures and sign-offs from those people that they're waiving the 3-week notification for that to be shut down. So if I can get everybody down on their costs, and the only thing that's stopping us is the 3-week notification, that we as the town take that on and go to these individual people or businesses that would be out of power for the short time and get them to sign on that the 3-week notice is not necessary. And if you get one person that says that, nope, too bad, then we're probably out of our time frame and the developer will have closed, we'll have the demo machines there and be ready to go. So nobody wanted to hold him up, but at the same time, we can maybe see if we can get that 3-week notification period waived.
Okay.
Thank you, Anne Marie.
Thank you.
It's complicated, to say the
Yes,
least.
it is.
Good answer.
You learned that pretty quick. Okay, thank you, everyone. This concludes our discussion items. Devin, can you please read the resolutions before us?
Sure.
Devin, I have a couple questions on some of the resos. I'm gonna let you know, but I don't want you to think I'm
Okay,
interrupting.
we'll go in order and we'll
Okay,
take those
great.
questions as they come, right? Resolution number 1, amendment fee waiver request for special event Muddy Princess. Number 2, authorizes town clerk to publish and post a notice to bidders for liquid sludge removal. Number 3, authorizes the removal of fixed assets.
Just wondering, Bill, where these items are coming from? And if they're being replaced?
It says right to the right where they're coming from, under department.
From accounting, I think, correct?
Nope, it says building for the plotter, detention chair
Bill?
for police.
I have it here, Bill, can you?
It's right on it,
It says it on the reso.
right on the resolution.
They're typically not replaced, these are older items.
Mhm.
We're not replacing
They're not
the
getting
plotter.
replaced?
Well, the plotter, I know we're not replacing. Chairs may have been replaced already, and these are put on the
Okay.
side until we get them all
Nothing
together.
big, just wondering, just 'cause we're in a budget crunch. All right, thank you.
Okay.
Number 4, authorizes the town clerk to publish and post notice for public hearing regarding the U.S. HUD Community Development Block Grant CDBG 2021 funds. Number 5, accepts the resignation of a part-time environmental planner.
Just a point here, just for the planning department, a concern now because we'll have one planner and 2 planning aides. So, who's going to be doing the environmental planning?
Is there any possibility we could ship that out?
Jeff, can you come to the mic? Because people are saying they can't hear that we don't come to the mic.
Well, you have to get a CSEA agreement in order to,
Yeah.
do that, because it's part of their job.
So,
right,
well, will
right,
Jeff
right.
Seaman still be doing,
Yep, sorry about that.
who's
No,
gonna
no.
be doing the environmental planning?
The environmental planning right now consists of reviewing Chapter 219 and wetland permits. Greg Bergman currently reviews the application permits with the CAC, and the Chapter 219 applications will be divided up amongst the 3 of us.
But at some point, we do need to look to your department because, in the comparison with other towns, now we're operating with a lot less compared to what other towns have in the planning department, correct?
Understood, and then we also have, budgetary issues, and we work with the supervisor on addressing our staffing needs.
And we have a lot going on right now in long-term planning. All right, thank you,
Yes, we do.
Jeff.
And we also have limited space as to where to put people if we should hire them.
Jeff. Okay.
basement.
We are cleaning up the basement.
Folding chairs in the parking lot.
They're gonna be taking stuff out of the basement, right? We worked on that.
Okay, number 6, ratifies the appointment of a temporary part-time public safety dispatcher. Number 7, East End Disabilities Water Service Installation number 82052. Number 9, number 8, Scavenger Waste District Budget Transfer.
And why is this in a water line? That's a water line, correct? Bill?
Taking money from a water line.
That's, very common, right?
I just wanted to,
Yeah.
yeah.
When you need to buy excess chemicals.
So that,
The
coming
money-
from a water
the
line?
money's coming from a water line that he's not going to spend this year, and but he needs it in his chemical line.
Yeah. Okay.
We might as well stay close. I have another question. On the next one.
Okay, number 9, Water District Budget Transfer.
Just wondering, cause the H2M letter, says that the cost is 11,000, but the cost, the amount is 20. Is this being, are we padding? Just wondering why we're padding it with this much, or if I, cause the H2M letter says the cost is 11,000.
I'll go back and check that. He had requested 20, and he does have money in those 2 lines, so I'll look at the H2M letter.
Well, I'm assuming there's a reason for it, I just wondered what it was.
I
Well,
will-
it's
I will
from
check with.
repairs and maintenance from buildings is the line that it's coming from, the 11,000.
Yeah, but
Repairs and maintenance.
we're putting 20
20.
into the professional
cost-
service line, so.
We're putting in 20, but the cost says 11,000.
Mhm. I will look into it.
Thank you, Bill.
Number 10, authorizes supervisor to execute change order number 1, installation of water mains and appurtenances, the Vistas at Bating Hollow, Fox Hill Drive, Bating Hollow, Riverhead Water District. Number 11, authorizes funding application to the New York State Department of Criminal Justice Services for live scan equipment. Number 12, authorizes the town clerk to publish and post a notice to bidders for a request for proposals for the renovation and conversion of the Benjamin Barn at East End Arts Council to a ceramic studio. Number 13, amends Resolution 2020-458 and authorizes use of additional Pine Barrens credits from property in the town of Riverhead.
Just a couple questions on that. I was wondering if we know how many credits we have left for sale?
Maybe Bob knows or Jeff?
Bob?
You can call the Pine Barrens Clearinghouse, they would know.
Yeah, I mean, I could look on the Pine Barrens Clearinghouse site.
Okay.
I know that there are at least two main locations that still have Pine Barrens credits, the one being the Peconic Men's Sportsman's Club, one being the Boy Scout Camp, which is the Shift property in Wading River. I believe both of them are getting closer to single digits at this point in time. They've been kind of active in selling their Pine Barrens credits, but I'm not positive. I'd have to look at the current, because they're listed monthly.
And
Correct.
who serves on the clearinghouse for us?
On the Clearinghouse?
There is no, we don't. serve
No,
on-
the Pine Barrens Commission is the supervisor. The Clearinghouse is the agency that monitors and handles the Pine Barrens credits.
Yes, and,
I thought there was someone from the town that served on that. Is that incorrect?
yes, that's incorrect. And
I
we
don't
just-
believe so.
We just recently, utilized the Pine Barrens credit. It went
This
to
is the
ICA.
same, this is the same individual. We had a resolution on, a while back for 0.5 Pine
Right.
Barrens credits. The individual went to the Suffolk County Department of Health Services, to the Board of Review, and was told that that's not going to be enough in order to get his project done in the town of Smithtown. So he emailed asking if the town would consider amending the prior resolution, allowing him to increase his Pine Barrens acquisition from the town of Riverhead to be utilized in Smithtown to 1 Pine Barren credit.
Right, okay.
And what are they going for?
They're doing a minor subdivision. He's
Now, what
a
are the Pine Barren credits going for now?
sanitary density flow.
No, but in
Oh, I
terms of
mean
the
dollars and
cost.
cents wise?
I
I
mean the
don't
cost.
know. I don't know because that's all private, private deal between the person buying them and the person selling them.
There is an estimate.
We're going for around
cost.
$75,000 a
Between
credit.
70
Yeah.
and 100,000.
How much is it?
I was involved with the transfer 3 years ago. Back then, it was 75,000 a credit.
Yeah.
But it also depends on how many you buy from the individual, whether or not you want to bundle them, as opposed to buying a fractional. If you're buying a fractional, the per unit cost actually goes up.
Yeah, so I think now it's up to 100,000, but it's between 75 and 100,000. Okay.
Number 14, amends Resolution 2020-30 and approves execution of a revised agreement between the town of Riverhead and Flynn Stenography and Transcription Services.
And, sorry, I just want to mention there's a few typos in this reso.
I'll try to correct them. It was done kind of
At
quickly.
one point, in one of the paragraphs, instead of 2020, it says 20120.
Okay.
And
That's a long
then
time
in
from
the
now.
agreement, it still lists Sean Walter.
Oh, okay.
Okay, number 15, grants approval for the special permit application of Peconic County Brewery LLC, 221 East Main Street, Riverhead, New York, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 600-129-1-22.1.
Good.
Number 16, awards bid for traffic signal emergency repair and additional work as authorized 2020-2021. Number 17, authorizes the town clerk to publish and post a notice to bidders for uniforms and work clothing. Number 18, approves formation of the Riverhead Law Enforcement Advisory Panel, LEAP, and appointment of members. Number 19, accepts resignation of part-time Spanish-speaking clerk. Number 20, authorizes town clerk to publish and post a notice to bidders for chemicals for Riverhead Sewer District. Number 21, determination and emergency declaration that the structure located at 168 Creek Road, Wading River, also known as Suffolk County Tax Map Number 600-29-1-30.1, is unsafe, is in imminent danger of collapse, poses a hazard and danger to the public, and orders the town engineering department to facilitate the demolition of said structure and to assess demolition, removal, and administrative costs assigned against the subject property.
Bob, we haven't heard from anybody on that?
No,
Yeah.
nothing further from either the
Owner
wife,
or
the wife of, Mr. Wang, or from the contractor.
What a surprise.
Bob, wasn't our town engineer supposed to go out and meet their engineer that was coming?
We-
That
we
didn't
were-
happen?
We were trying to get them to do that, but it has not happened.
Yes, they have not made any contact, and there is a deadline on that.
They have not reached
So-
out.
So
Yeah.
we had left it open till the 20th.
Correct.
So doesn't look like we're getting any exhibits?
To this point in time, we have not received anything.
And we'll take a vote on the 20th.
Number 22, declares SRBH Lots LLC in default regarding completion of the public improvements at the Realty subdivision known as Map of Country Trails at Bating Hollow. Number 23, appoints call-in recreation staff to the Recreation Department.
Oh, by the way, it says 2019 on the salaries on this one. Wondered if they're the same. I'll ask Ray.
Number 24, classifies action, declares lead agency, adopts negative declaration, and adopts a strategic plan for transit-oriented development Railroad Avenue Urban Renewal Area in DC3 District. Number 25, extends bid nunc-pro-tunc for Ford Automotive replacement parts. Number 26, bid award for 2020 or newer chassis, 10-foot 304 stainless steel dump body, custom low-mount hitch, 10-foot stainless steel material spreader, 10-foot snowplow, and central hydraulics. And number 27, authorizes town supervisor to execute legal services agreement with Scherer Edling LLP to pursue litigation on behalf of the Riverhead Water District PFAS PFOA.
And Bob, you were gonna get some more information for us on that? I had called you about this one.
Yeah, this is, well, I know Frank's here, and I didn't have a chance to speak with him, but we have a well that's got evidence of PFAS. He is asking that we retain the Southside Council. They're doing it on a contingency fee basis. The contingency fee is based upon at what point they settle. So we are looking, since we have to do upgrades and address the situation, our hope is that we can not only be successful and against the party that caused the PFAS to be found, but also hopefully address some of the costs that we're going to have to incur as direct damages due to their conduct.
Thank you, Bob.
All right?
And we're hoping to get reimbursement, I understand, from the Navy, or we're gonna try to pursue that avenue?
Frank Mancini did not discuss that with me. I'm sure that the Navy could be a party. That's going to be something that I'm sure this firm's going to be looking into to determine how it was caused to be present, who the culpable parties would be, and I'm sure they'll name, as we learn in law school, anybody and everybody who's a potential defendant.
Great. And then we have the Crown Castle that we agreed to put up on the 20th. So we're gonna add that. Can you circulate it to the board for approval, and then we can move forward with that? Okay, anyone else? Tim, anyone have
No.
anything? Great, okay. Thank you, everyone. This concludes our discussion item. Can I have a first and a second to end this meeting? We have nothing on for executive session. First-
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So moved. Everyone be safe. Thank you.
Thank you, you too.
Have a good weekend.
Jefferson.